Hey, folks. Clay Novak, author of the Terry Davis series. Um, so, all three of the books so far in the series, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting, Cross to Bear, and now Rebellis, the latest release, are all in development for audiobooks. I know that's been one of the biggest asks from everybody, from all the readers, and from people who want to read but don't have the time, or they have a hard time sitting down and reading and they just want to listen to it on audiobook. So, those are in development. But I thought I would give you a little bit of a primer, a little head start on Keep Moving, Keep Shooting, and maybe a little teaser for those that have never, don't know about Terry Davis, have never heard of the book, or are interested but don't know how interested. So I'm going to read the first chapter of Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. And maybe that will draw some of you in. Maybe that will increase the demand or the want or the ask for the audiobooks. But again, a little bit something different today. And so this is going to be chapter one of Keep Moving, Keep Shooting, the first Terry Davis novel, as read by me, Clay Novak, the author. His eyes opened slowly as his hand searched for the alarm clock. It was one of those old time ones with the two bells on top and the clacker between. He didn't know if the alarm function even worked, really. His body had been conditioned after 25 years in the Army to wake early, making an alarm clock a moot point. As his eyes gained some focus, he could see it was just past 0630, another habit ingrained from all those years. His brain still read all time as military time. He rolled slightly in the queen bed, reaching behind him. Nothing. Cold sheets. She was out of bed and had been for a while. He should have anticipated it after she woke up in the middle of the night by climbing on top of him. Sex like that Sex like that came because she was awake and needed to burn some energy. He certainly wasn't complaining. She was an early riser too, like him, but there was something stirring in her brilliant mind. She called it a bee in her bonnet. He referred to it as something that had lit a fire under her ass. Regardless, she couldn't sit still when this happened. She went to bed late, barely slept, got up early, and was always moving. Now, he just had to find her. Margaret Peggy Barron grew up in this house. It had been in her family for almost 100 years, like the 640 acres of Nebraska prairie it sat on. The house started as plans from the Sears catalog and piles of lumber lying next to a foundation poured by a bunch of farmers. It never should have lasted this long, but the Barron family had taken good care of it. There were creaks in the floors, and some of the door hinges squealed. He always felt like he was being loud as he moved through it. Peggy could navigate it like a cat, never making a noise. He was the combat veteran and should have been the stealthy one, not her. It was almost frustrating. He made his way down the stairs to the kitchen, peeking in rooms as he went. No sign of her. There were cold scrambled eggs with some fatty bacon on the stove, still in cast iron skillets, along with a few biscuits wrapped in a dish towel on the counter. At least she had eaten something. He assumed she went out to the horses or somewhere in or around the barn. He grabbed a biscuit and shoved a few pieces of bacon into his mouth before he retreated upstairs to get dressed. Terry Davis would never be a cowboy. There were aspects about living out here that he loved, but he would always choose a baseball cap over a Stetson and hiking boots over cowboy boots. He grew up hunting and shooting, camping and hiking, but he wasn't a farmer or a rancher and didn't grow up with horses like Peggy had. Peggy Barron grew up here and knew every inch of the property, just like she did the house itself. She spent so much of her life on horseback, Terry said he could see saddle stitching imprinted on her ass when she walked around naked. She left home at 18, but not as part of some teenage rebellious tantrum. Intellectually, she was well ahead of the rural school district she had been born into, and everyone knew her future was far away from the Platte River Valley. After running around the globe for most of her adult life, she had settled back here to take care of aging parents and the property she loved so much. Terry had only recently begun to hang his hat here, although they had known each other professionally for years. Terry grabbed the pistol off the nightstand, holstering it as he walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, and straight out the back door, slinging his rifle across his chest once outside. This is why he liked being out here. He carried a gun everywhere he went, and no one flinched. As soon as he started walking toward the barn, he knew where she was and what she was doing. The sound of chopping wood was distinct as it echoed off the red-painted wood that enclosed the barn. He couldn't see her, but he knew Peggy was at the woodpile splitting logs. He admired her as he came around the corner and she came into view. Her technique was terrible, and she wasn't very strong, although she was working hard. The axe was old, but she knew how to keep it sharp, another skill learned living out here, so she was letting it do most of the work. He could see sweat on her neck and the faint stains of perspiration on the back of her shirt. She was tall, about 5 feet 9 inches, and had curves where they should be. She didn't have the typical flat ass of most women who spent as much time as she did in the saddle. She was busty, but with narrow shoulders and hips. She definitely looked like a woman, even in jeans and a work shirt. Peggy was about 10 years older than Terry. He didn't know exactly how much older because he didn't care, but he was in his mid-40s and she was in her early to mid-50s. Wandering around the house, she rarely wore a bra and never wore panties when she was in the saddle. He found himself wondering if there was anything under her jeans and white tank top at the moment. She reached for another piece of wood and noticed him standing there. "You just gonna stare or you gonna help?" she said as she stood a log on its end. "Since when do you need my help?" he returned quickly. It was a tennis match and she served first. "If I needed your help, I would have dragged you out of bed." The axe came down clumsily as she tried to speak and swing at the same time. "I was just hoping you would want to help." She was never into the touchy-feely woman mentality, but she knew talking like this made him uncomfortable, so she did it on purpose. "The only thing I want to know is what's running around in that head of yours." He leaned the rifle back against the barn and walked over to take the axe from her. "Let me chop, and you fill me in on what got you naked and horny in the middle of the night." She gave him the axe, half relieved and half out of frustration that he knew her tendencies so well. He laid his gun belt across the wood pile and began to chop as she spoke. "I was sent an email yesterday about a threat inside the U.S. She looked at him as he paused briefly. The axe came down. Chop. It was from the team at Whiteman. They were alerted by DHS and some others that there was a legitimate threat assessed to be headed there. Peggy was referring to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, the home of the B-2 stealth bomber. "And the threat is Middle Eastern." Chop. He swung the axe. "So they called you to see what you might know from your contacts or to see what you could find out on their behalf." He could see she was irritated at how quickly his mind worked at times. He was exactly right. "Did they send you this unclass?" The axe fell again. Chop. He knew she hadn't left the property yesterday, so she wouldn't have been able to access her classified email. "The threat was described as imminent, so they took a risk and sent it to me." He stopped chopping completely and looked at her. Her auburn hair was up in a ponytail, and she had been keeping it shorter over the last few years. The loose wisps were blowing around in the breeze, and he could see the concern in her green eyes. There was more, so he waited for her to tell him. "I hadn't heard anything from anyone I knew, so I started reaching out. Every contact I have across the whole region said the same thing. We don't have anything, or nothing here. That's never happened before. Not to me." He knew what she was saying, but this is how things worked. He would help her work through the information in her head and piece it all together. It was a beautiful and yet very functional partnership. "So you reached out to all your contacts across the intelligence community in the Middle East and got nothing." It was a statement, not a question. He started swinging the axe again, building up a light sweat of his own. "Now you're trying to figure out why, in this instance, with a very specific threat, there's a vacuum of intel at the source." Again, another statement. She stood there, arms folded, with her thumbnail in her mouth, staring into the prairie. Her mind was turning, but he was giving her focus. He continued. "So I would say it is either independent actors not associated with any country or major terror group, or..." She looked up at him intently as he momentarily paused, the axe above his head. "The whole fucking Muslim world is in on it, and they're all working together." The axe came down. Chop. She reeled back for a half second. Why would you think that? Peggy Barron was a world-renowned expert in Middle East cultural affairs. The region was like a second home to her. She had been moving in and through there since her early 20s. Iraq, Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Lebanon, Israel, all of it. She spoke Arabic and could read and write Hebrew. She knew the customs, the history, and the conflict. She was protective of the people and what she loved about the region. She took Terry's whole fucking Muslim world remark as an insult. Peggy, there is no such thing as no intel. You know this, especially from that part of the world. He felt like he was getting ahead of her in her analysis, which meant he had to tread a little lightly. He could see she was upset, so he gave her the opportunity to take charge of the tennis match again. What else did they tell you in the initial message? Anything? Not much. The estimate was 3 to 5 individuals coming from the southwest, I assume the Mexican border. It came from DHS, so I also assumed there was involvement from other agencies. I should call down to El Paso. El Paso was Peggy's shorthand for the El Paso Intelligence Center, or EPIC, that resided on Fort Bliss. It was a joint multinational, international organization that monitored all of the traffic across every border of the United States. Based on the location, many people assumed it was just focused on the border with Mexico, but it monitored the Canadian border and all the seaports as well. I think a call to El Paso was a good idea. Terry leaned the axe against the barn, grabbing the pistol belt and rifle. Where are you going? She asked as he walked by her. You need to get to a secure phone if this is going to be worthwhile. That means an hour drive to the National Guard Armory. We need to get moving. Terry knew the National Guard unit down the road was used to Peggy just popping by unannounced. When she showed up, the captain just vacated his office and gave her his computer and phone. It wasn't uncommon for her to be in regular contact with people around the world, from the Pentagon to Afghanistan. She had all the credentials and even had her own classified email account. Frankly, she had more need for the classified system in the armory than the unit did. Terry knew the hour drive would give them more opportunity to talk through this before she got on the phone, and another hour to analyze together on their way back. You don't need to go, she said. I can handle this on my own. I know you can, he said with a grin. I just thought you'd want me to go with you. It was a soft counterpunch to her earlier comment. She frowned at him as he walked by her towards the house. Terry hung the rifle on the wall rack once he came in the door. He built the rifle a few years ago, partly out of utility and partly out of nostalgia. It was an AR-15 built to be as close as he could get to the various M4s he had carried over his 5 combat tours. He built it to the same specifications as a service rifle, minus the barrel. The government issue M4 had a 14.5-inch barrel, but the ATF said a civilian couldn't own one under 16 inches without paying a $200 tax. So his rifle had a 16-inch barrel. Terry spent the extra money to add a Trijicon Advanced Combat Optical Gun Sight, commonly referred to as an ACOG. There were better scopes out there, but he was comfortable with the ACOG and he liked it. The Surefire Scout Light flashlight and the PEQ-15 laser aiming device were probably excessive, but he didn't care. The farm was in the middle of nowhere, and if things went bad, he was a firm believer it was better to have and not need. He left it loaded with a round in the chamber inside the house, and Peggy never said a word. Both of them were dressed for doing work around the farm and not a trip into town, as Peggy called it. Terry stopped in the kitchen for another handful of bacon and then followed her upstairs to change clothes. He walked in the same spots she did, her not making a sound and him making so much noise, he felt like he was waking the dead. Once she cleared the bedroom door, she stripped as she walked, leaving a trail of clothes from the door to the dresser. His question was answered, black cotton panties and no bra. He smiled. She was in great shape regardless of her age. With a pile of clean clothes in her hand, she brushed past him and headed for the bathroom, giving him a quick kiss on the way. She got a pat on the ass for her effort. His OCD got the better of him and he started to clean up the clothes strewn across the old hardwood floor. You really don't have to go, she said from the bathroom doorway, trying to dissuade him. He ignored the statement. Well, get in here then. Water conservation, remember? Let's go. She was completely naked now, standing in full view. He didn't need any more of an invitation. In public, they were very different people. Peggy appeared in every sense as an intellectual, including how she dressed when they weren't on the farm. She wore expensive suits, designer glasses, silk blouses, and nice shoes. She looked as smart as she was. Terry was still an infantryman. He dressed in utility clothing. Unless an event required a suit, he always asked himself, can I fight in it? Before he put it on. In private, they were very similar. While the hot shower was a great opportunity for another quick round of sex, Terry and Peggy were both focused. There was some kissing and some foreplay, but they both knew this was not the time. She was out of the shower quickly and mostly dressed, while he was still drying off. Clean black cotton panties and a bra this time, hidden away under a pair of casual pants, dress shirt, and even a light blazer. This was about as dressed down as she got when they went to town. He jumped into clean jeans and a t-shirt and threw a button-down shirt over the top. He slid the Glock 19 into a Kydex holster and tucked it into his waistband. He got a rare sideways glance from her. Terry carried a pistol almost everywhere he went for the same reasons he had a loaded rifle hanging on the wall. "What?" he asked her. "Just wondering if that is more necessary than I believed before now. I know the world, Terry. It's full of bad people, but I always thought this place was safe. Now I'm not so sure." There was a genuine concern in her eyes, and she used his first name. She almost never used his first name. Now he was concerned too. So, folks, that's chapter 1 in book 1 of the Terry Davis series, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. This is it. You can find it on Amazon. You can find all 3 books on Amazon. You can search either under the title, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting, or you can search under my name, Clay E. Novak. Again, these 3 books are all in development for an audiobook version. But I thought I'd give you all a taste of it being read by me, and then you can hear the author's voice as well as the story itself, or the introduction to the story. So there's your first bite of Terry Davis. I hope you all enjoy it. Please click like, push it around. Go to Amazon, find it there, or you can go to my website, claynovak.com. Hit the titles tab at the top, and it will take you to the screen where you can see the description of all 3 books and click to buy on Amazon button for each of them. So thanks again for everybody's support, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy the Terry Davis series. And as always from me, keep moving, keep shooting.